All right. Good evening, everyone. Did you just hand me? Okay, he handed me the keys to the car. So we'll call this meeting to order at 7:03, Thursday, May 27th. The Sudden Valley Board of Directors proudly supports a land acknowledgement and anti-racist statement, which you can find on the Sudden Valley website. Roll call. AJ will be out with an excused absence. Joel is here, and Steffi's going to be a little bit late. Andrew Interkin tendered his resignation today, and he mentioned that he will, possibly make a statement in a little while. So just wanted to let you guys know that. Actually, our ACC chair is missing.
That's McLean. I can't think of his first name.
He was on just a minute ago.
Wasn't
he? I don't know. I thought he was. Maybe not. Sorry.
Okay. Well, we'll touch base with him. I was going to introduce him. I have not met him yet either. Yeah. We do have a new ACC chair.
Joel's on too. Joel.
Yeah, I saw Joel. Okay. So adoption of the agenda, I would like to move to amend the agenda to remove the committee reports since we did that last time. Can I?
So moved.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, it passes. Do I have a motion to move into closed session?
Motion to move into closed session.
Second.
All in favor? All right, see you guys there. John, you got to put on some ABBA or something nice while everyone waits.
I'll see what I can do.
All right, see ya.
For everybody that is here, is my audio working?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Ah, terrific.
Okay. Chris, thanks for being here.
For sure.
And thank you for taking that tree this morning.
Yeah. Apparently it was a lot crazier than it looked from the ground.
Yeah, it sounds like
it had
it.
like a spiral fracture, Brandon was saying.
Crazy.
Did you check out the weird one over at 52 Morning Glory?
Mm-mm.
There's one over at 52 and it used to be like this and now it's popped open.
Okay.
And it's in like, it's just strange. It's a weird shape. Like it's far enough from everything. It's probably fine, but just looks scary every time you look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I shouldn't say probably. Like I expect it to be fine, but so there's 4 people not in a closed session and then like 11 in the closed session.
Something like that.
Makes me feel more exclusive being part of a small group.
It was pouring rain here earlier.
Yeah, it was crazy. We had a tree on top of a big art studio in La Conner.
No.
Yeah, was pretty cool. It was a cool project.
Okay, they've started their closed session at this point. I don't have an ETA as far as what we're looking at. So hopefully it'll be nice and snappy. We'll be back to it. We've got 6 attendees with us here. So it's just going to keep streaming here live on YouTube until they get back.
All right, I'm gonna go make a cup of tea.
Hey, Brent, I see you're just joining us there. The board of directors just went into a closed session.
Yeah, I was here for a few minutes. I was just on my phone switching to my computer. So
Oh, okay, cool.
I heard it all. Thank you.
No problem.
right. Do we have everyone? Looks like it. All right, do I have a motion to move back into open session?
Motion to move back into open session.
Second.
All in favor? All right, that's approved for a notice for the minutes. We are going back into open session at 8:37. Are there any objections to the consent agenda that is included in your agenda packet? Okay, by acclamation, those are approved. Announcements. Before I go, does anyone have any announcements? You guys are such a lively group tonight.
I do.
Oh, Andrew's with us. Go ahead, Andrew.
Thanks, Josh. Yep. So I've missed a few meetings in the past. As you probably know, I have a handful of kiddos who are all becoming school aged, and they're getting involved in activities, and it's taking a lot of my time right now. Some of you probably understand where I'm coming from. In addition to that, my professional career is more demanding than what it was when I originally signed up for this volunteer capacity. And so for those reasons, I've decided that, I can't look at all of you in the face and say I can give 100% effort to this position. So for those reasons, I've decided to tender my resignation from the board. But it's been a pleasure serving the community, and as they say, carry on. Thank you, everyone.
Good luck, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Good luck.
Good luck, Andrew.
So Josh,
Yes, could you please post a vacancy unless anyone has any objections to that?
so here's two things I need from you guys to decide, and I probably need to include Glenn in this. Normally, we would open it as soon as possible, which would be like tomorrow. It's Friday. Oh, geez. The holiday is coming up here for Memorial Day. I need to find out if there's the possibility of still being able to post a notice in the views for June.
We have not received the proof yet, so, oh, Brent's here.
Yeah,
Yes.
Where's my proof, Brent?
we're not printing until Thursday, so that is the plan. So we have time. I believe that's Thursday the 3rd.
Okay,
So we're printing like early that morning so we can mail it the same day. So we definitely have time to get it in the views.
I should have something for you to probably tomorrow to put in the views. With Glenn, what I wanted to say, normally there have to be applications put out. There has to be a posting online done. This is all staff. I would suggest, given that we're going into the Memorial Day holiday, that we plan on the beginning date of this vacancy being June 1st. Even though he made the announcement today, it's with all the holidays coming up, it would close July 1st, which is the first 30-day period. And then you could vote at the July 8th meeting or the second meeting that month. I'm hoping that we'll have we need 2 candidates during that period. But that's what I would suggest rather than trying to squeeze this all in tomorrow.
I agree.
Thank you.
That works.
If that's okay with the board, then we'll call it for, it's June 1st, which is Tuesday. And then it would close on the 1st of July. And then you could vote that next week. That would give a week to notify the candidates. And it also is part of the announcement.
I think that's great.
Okay. The thing that scares me, and I'll tell you all, and you probably all don't realize it, and I hate spending our application period for AGM candidates opens on July 6th. So I'm hoping that we're going to have this pretty much resolved and everything else, and that we'll get the candidates, 2 candidates we need to put this out of the way. Last year, I spent time having 2 sets of applications out, one for an appointment and one for the board, and it gets really difficult, and it's difficult for staff to try and sort through it all. But anyway,
Well, I'm
that's
sure
what I
we'll get
suggest.
through it, Linda.
Okay.
We'll get through it.
Glenn, I'll have something to you tomorrow, but I won't expect staff to take care of it until the 1st then.
Okay, yeah, we'll be on it on Tuesday.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Linda. Any further announcements? Okay. We'll move on to property owner comments and board response.
Yeah.
Come one, come all, step right up.
Evening, everybody. Yeah, go ahead and use the raise hand feature in Zoom if you'd like to add property owners' comments for this evening. There are 2 sessions of this. So if you're hanging out for the duration, there will be another chance later, but if you'd like now, just use the raise hand feature.
Looks like we have Batman in the audience.
I noticed.
All right. I was hoping we'd get to speak to Batman, but let's go ahead and move on to tree presentation.
Okay, that's actually what Christopher is here for. However, I'm not sure he's still with us, unfortunately.
Is he okay?
I'm still here. Yeah,
Great.
no, I'm okay. Good
Okay.
health and everything. But my camera got disabled.
I've
Now
got that
I'm
for
allowed
you.
to have camera again.
No problem. There you go.
Cool. Oh, sorry. There we go.
Hi, Chris. Turfer.
Hello. I guess I should just start. Briefly, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Christopher Hunsaker. I'm with Earthworks Tree Service. We've been working with Susie and Glenn out of the office. We had a really good relationship with Jacob, and I think we're working with Darren for the most part now. It's all been going well. I just thought I'd give you guys an update of what we've been doing so far. We were able to go through and take care of the obvious no permit needed problem trees. Like there was a giant dead Douglas fir over at 16 Nighthawk, and I can go through a list of trees, but I don't think that'll be very productive. Basically, we've been able to take care of all of the identifiable large dead trees that didn't need any permits. And since then, I believe we've got 50 trees permitted with with Whatcom County, and we're waiting for those to go through so we can start working on some of the living trees that are high risk trees. We've also been able to go through the giant list that Susie had left over from the previous card and go through, remove a lot of the trees that weren't high risk, but that were on there because to previous card, they were large trees, which look scary, but fortunately they were just large trees. And being an arborist, I was able to clarify that list down and prioritize some of those that had been put off a little bit. If I feel like I'm a little lost at what to say here, I've kind of run out of everything, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Can I
Anya?
can I amend the agenda so that since this is actually talking about sorry, I don't have it up in front of me, but the item lower down where there's an ask, right? You're addressing the additional funds to pay for the hazard trees. Is that why you're?
Sonia, no, that would be me, and I will be addressing that later on.
Okay.
Christopher is giving a tree presentation just right now about the state of the current hazard tree situation in Sudden Valley and what the money has been used for up until this point.
Okay, well, they seem tied to each other to me,
Yes.
but okay.
And as far as presentation goes, there was a couple other things I do want to address, and this may not be the meeting. It may be something to be brought up when we have something formally that we can send out to everybody beforehand. But there have been a couple situations with the current protocols. This is not so much tied into Earthworks duty in assisting Sudden Valley with the trees on the Sudden Valley property, but more just a perspective from an arborist as to some of the protocols. I'm also a resident here. I live over in Gate 9 by Huckleberry Park. But just we've got some protocols. For example, I believe the permits allow that you need a permit for any hardwoods over 7 inches in diameter. The idea of preserving maples and assumedly cottonwoods and alders. And I'd like to address some of those just for future safety issues, but that might be something that needs to come up written formally. I guess at this point, I'm in a much better place to just answer any questions anybody has. And then I know you guys have a long night ahead of you, so I don't want to take up too much more time.
I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Chris for working with us so well and being so positive and friendly with our membership. The folks have been nothing but positive when you've dealt with them. So appreciate you and your team being out here. They also jumped in and helped us a couple of days with Firewise, and that helped us finish it today. So thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate all your work.
Yeah, for sure. And we really appreciate the relationship too. So thank you. We look forward to just like keeping everything good. We really appreciate working with you guys.
And they actually helped us out this morning as well. I don't know if you guys heard about that closure, but they showed up in an instant for us. So thank you again.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'm a little confused about what I can ask here and what I can't, but I'm going to just jump ahead because so there is a later agenda item that's making a further dip into the well for more hazard tree fund. So one of the carrots that got dangled out before was that because you're an arborist, and obviously that's what we need is a plan to keep the trees healthy. And that if we could just address these hazard trees, then we could get to that. And then I noticed that it's kind of saying that again, that if we could just get more money and address these hazard trees, then we can get to that. And so I'm wondering what's the actual proposal? Like when are we going to get to that?
We'll answer that. We'll answer that in the agenda item, but we do have part of what Chris just talked about was that he's been able to eliminate a lot of the list because there were a number of trees that were healthy. They just were concerns for people because they were so big. So that plan is being formed. When we originally proposed this issue, we talked about knowing that we would need more money because there was such a backlog, but we only made a certain ask because we wanted to create that plan, which Chris and Susie have now gotten much more handle on.
Right. Another part I would put forward is, there's 1,500 acres of trees essentially, and we're concerned about all those within about 60 to 80 feet of homes. So that reduces the number of trees that we can identify, but there is the cost and the time that would take to get an accurate inventory of every tree surrounding every home in Sudden Valley is not a feasible list. And so the list that we do have, Susie could let you know better, but it's currently about 80 trees long. That's 80 residents. So it's more trees than that. That's the list that we're working through. And that's constantly being added to either by like me going out to do a visit and then noticing, like, for example, behind 50 Morning Glory, there's a giant Sitka spruce and it just has mushrooms all the way up the entire length of the tree. And that's something that wasn't on the list. So like for liability sake, for safety sake, that's something we have to add to the list. So the list is our population, and that's constantly being updated with every resident that gives a phone call to say, hey, I'm worried about these trees. I'll go take a look and give an evaluation so that we don't put unnecessary trees on the list that may have been added before. And also that saves the budget from being affected that way. But then we can still prioritize. It's a difficult spot because to know that you have a high risk tree above somebody's home and tell them, I mean, I don't know how that conversation even goes. It's one of those liabilities that Sudden Valley takes on every time they know that they've been informed there's a high risk tree in those situations. And by high risk, I don't mean a homeowner or a contractor says, well, look at that tree, it's very scary. I mean, like under expert opinion, whether from me or one of the other number of arborists in the county. So yeah, as far as getting through all of the dangerous trees, we live in a forest. That's going to be an ongoing thing, but we are getting a cap on all of the trees that we're aware of. We're able to work through that. And like all of the permits that we're submitting to Whatcom County are not preventative measures. There are, I would say 50-50 as we go through the list, preventative trees that say it would be good to take out this grove of alders because they are going to fall on the house in 15 years, but we're not going to worry about it for now. I hope that answers the question.
Kind of. So I just want to be clear because I have seen a couple of those permit applications. They don't always appear to be on Sudden Valley green space. And from it almost sounds like what you're saying is that residents are approaching you guys or maintenance, and that, so are these trees on people's property, or you are only
Sonia,
dealing
no.
with Sudden Valley?
No, Sonia, we're not taking out private property trees.
I'm just trying, I'm asking for clarity from, because
Yeah,
of the
so
conversation.
we don't take out private property trees, no.
Like I said, that's why I wanted clarity, because some of your permits actually just, they have people's addresses that were their actual owner addresses. So
Right, that would
that's
be
why-
because when we're dealing with green space, when we have to give a location, we have to also give a better location than just SVCA green space. Does that make sense? So we'll say behind this home's address in the green space.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry. And it may also be slightly confusing as well because we still operate not solely for Sudden Valley, but I put through a lot of permits for private residents as well. And I don't know if this is the board that reviews those or which board, but you'll see my name on a lot of things. But every time it says SVCA at the top of one of my reports or permit, that would be a tree that's being removed for Sudden Valley and is on Sudden Valley property. We've been able to remove a fair amount, not a fair amount, but a couple from the list as well when they just turned out to be on the homeowner's property and not on Sudden Valley's property. It's a big list and we don't want to spend time taking trees out of people's private residences as well. I mean, we want to as a business, but for Sudden Valley and that budget, we leave that alone.
Does that make sense, Sonia?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And I mean, I'm more than happy to provide my email. If you guys have any questions, you can email me afterwards as well. I'd be more than happy to try to answer the questions again.
Could you send the board your email, or do we have it in this packet? I actually have some questions for you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer it. I'll see how to send it over. It's quite simple. It's Christopher@earthworkstreeservice.com. I'll go ahead and put it in the chat here as well. And then, yeah, we'll see if we can get that sent over.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Now, any other questions or anything I need to report on? I'm happy to do either.
Thanks.
No, I think we should all email you if we have questions and kind of move this along.
That sounds great.
Thanks for
coming
joining
back.
us, Chris.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Have a good night.
Good night.
All right. Next up, Mr. Glenn with the general manager's report.
Okay, I'm going to be super quick. We are in the process of restaffing. So we continue to work really hard. Rachel and I have a plan to become full staff by the middle of July and have all the hiring done by the end of June. It's aggressive, but we're going to do what we can. Of course, with the shortage, that's a challenge. I've mentioned in a couple of emails, we are developing a work plan that will tie to the budget for 21, what we've got left, but also start planning for 22. So you'll start to see that in the budget process. We are just about finished with the road patching plan for this year. So you'll see a capital request come through the finance committee and the board in the near future to get that process going. And you have noticed that in the new GM report, we have some new graphics. We have we put together a new, different look. Lauren and I and the managers have all worked on that. I think it's looking good. So offline, your feedback would be welcome. We plan on another infographic page, at least one more. But a number of the numbers that are in there are the things that you talk about a lot and wanting to see regularly. So that's why they've showed up in there. So with that, that's kind of all I had tonight. And thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Does anyone have questions? Linda?
Okay, I'm just going to go through it from start to finish. So question, in administration, you say that we have somebody who's been transferred to the parks team. Does that mean that we now have the 2 people back in parks, correct?
Correct. We are fully staffed in parks.
Okay, thank you. Then under the recreation, it says that they're following the new mask policy from the CDC. So we're in a gym. How is staff asking if people are fully vaccinated or not if they're not wearing a mask?
We are not asking. That is the guidance from the state, is to be trust that people who are not wearing masks are vaccinated. And again, that's the governor has given that guidance. So we've been following that. I do not want to put staff in that position, but I will tell you there are, I would say it's at least maybe even more than a 50-50 mix of people wearing masks and people not. So everyone's doing a really, really good job of that. So our citizens are doing great, and so is our staff.
And we're still keeping our scheduled appointment schedule where it's at that level of how often people can come in and when they're sanitizing and stuff.
Yeah, we will start moving away from that. And then we are putting together a plan for full open up when the governor opens everything up, and the reservations will go away then. And we're kind of starting to transition out of that. So yes, we're working on that.
Okay. I see that we've hired a new staff member, part-time in the marina and part-time in rec. My question is, how much time for marina and how much time for rec, and where does the salary come from?
Comes out of a little bit of both, I believe, and that's kind of how we're splitting it right now, is 50-50. But if Rachel, you want to answer that, that's.
It's coming out of 50-50, and they only work about 20 hours a week, just because the rec center was closed for a year and there was so much to gear up and get everything going, and the marina again, that's why we got for a little bit.
I got you.
They're not going to be long term.
Okay, it's just that the budget has a specific number and an ad for the marina and the cost of a person in there, and that's why I'm asking that question. On page 5, there's a 50. It says we have 50 employees, half seasonal and half full-time, correct?
Sure.
Are the seasonal all under that threshold you mentioned, Glenn, or are they just like for the summer months, just a few months, or what does that seasonal refer to?
Yeah, they're all under 8 months, and we have the 2 versions of them. Like our lifeguards are all going to be just the lifeguard season. We have some folks that will be here for 4 or 5 months, and then the maintenance ones can be here as long as 8 months.
I also have a question for Susie, if I might ask. It says under ACC that they have a new palette. Is that different than the palette that is that's in the ACC guidelines, the one that I have printed out?
Yes, it is different and you'll have it on your agenda, I think, coming up next meeting.
Yeah, because the board has to approve that. Will you be able to? I found out you can go and look at the colors online. Then there's like a link on the ACC page.
Yeah, it'll be available on the Sherwin-Williams HOA site. And there's also, we already have 4 sets ready in the front office as well, if you want to take a look at them. And I'm actually super excited about it, if I may talk about it for a second, because
Sure.
we got a hold ahead of time of Sherwin-Williams' new Pacific Northwest palette, and it's super great. So I'm very pleased that they said yes, and I'm super happy with the progress of the ACC.
Okay, I'm just thinking about doing the house and I've been looking at it, so that's why I had to ask when I saw this. Thank you. That's all I have for Glenn. Thank you.
Any further inquisition of Glenn?
Well, now I have a question. So
Go ahead.
we don't have to paint our house, like we can paint same color, right? If we're going to paint, we can still use the same color, right? Or do we have to work off that palette?
I think all paint requests will continue to go through the ACC, but those will be the pre-approved paints. If you're painting like for like currently, you do not have to put in a request.
Oh, okay. That's what I didn't understand that. Okay, thank you.
Anything else further? Sorry. All right, moving on to treasurer's report. Kim?
Thank you. Just a brief summary of our Finance Committee meeting on May 19th. We had 5 members that were present. We had 2 folks who were absent. We talked about, there were a few capital requests at that meeting. The stormwater culvert replacement was requested, and that was unanimously approved by the Finance Committee at that meeting. We also had a financial request for the True Turf Greens roller, and that was approved by a committee vote of 4-1. Under continuing business, we updated the budget, or there was an update on the budget process by Glenn, and we also talked about the credit card policy. We just shored that up to add some regulations to it that would protect Sudden Valley and give greater clarity on employee responsibilities of the credit card. We also talked about financials, which I'll let Joel cover in the financial report. And we had some community questions at the end that were answered, and we adjourned at 8:13 p.m. It was a great meeting, I understand that it's posted online if anyone wants to go and see the full version. And any questions about the Finance Committee meeting wrap up?
No, but thank you for the rundown.
Yes, in case anybody missed it. And I will turn the floor over to Joel so he can share the March financial report.
Hey, thank you, Kim. So I'll go ahead and go over the March financial statements. Anyone who watched the Finance Committee meeting, this is just basically going to be a replay of that again. I'll share the screen here. Okay, so what you're looking at right here is page 3 of the board packet. What I have on the screen right now is actually the full financial statements that anyone could go and pull up on the Finance Committee website pages. All the months, the full copies of them are available there. But basically, so we're just starting out with the balance sheet. Like I said last time, there's nothing exciting about the balance sheet at this point, meaning in a good way. Net operating assets are all nice and positive. If this number say we're negative, then that would mean that, oh, stuff like prepaid assessments, we're eating into that, which we're not doing. So that's fine. So our cash balances look good at this point. Going down to the capital section, these are just the month ending capital balances for all the major reserve accounts, capital reserve accounts. The operating reserve accounts like operating cash and UDR is up here in this operations section. But I'll get more into these balances on when I get into the reserve cash balance or reserve balance sheet page. So basically, in terms of the balance sheet, looks fine. Now, if we just go on to the next page, page 4 for you. Resize this here. Okay. So I'll start out with this column right here, basically, or just this column right here is we're looking at year to date, 3 months ending January 1, 2021 through, in this case, March 31st, 2021. So we're looking at the collection rate right here for the end of March. This is the year to date collection rate. So the collection rate is 91% year to date. In terms of the month to date collection rate for March, it was 99.5% collection rate. So back in February, I don't know if you remember, but the year to date, month to date, were very similar at that point. They were about 80, slightly under 87%. So that's something that we always keep an eye on in terms of collection rate. So I was happy to see in March that it looked like February was an anomaly. So at March, for it to month to date kick up to 99.5%, that means people are basically making up for lost payment or for dues that weren't paid in like January, February. They're making up a little for that. So it raised our collection rate for the year to 91%. In terms of perspective, at the end of March 2020, our collection rate year to date was 93%. So we're a couple points below where we were at this time last year. Now our collection rate, our budgeted collection rate is 95%. So we're under that 95% collection rate. However, in terms of I've already calculated April's collection rate. So April's collection rate is month to date 93.2%, which increased our year to date from 91% to about 91.6%. So the collection rate is heading up. What that really means, basically the bottom line of this is we have quite a few months left. Obviously, we have 9 months left in this year in terms of financial reporting, in terms of for that collection rate to catch up to the budget at 95%. So we're still within the running of at least hitting our budgeted collection rate. In terms of comparing, I just gave you the numbers, April 2021 collection rate. Now comparing that to April 2020 collection rate, that's a little more difficult because, as you remember, that's when we had the dues forgiveness in that month, so we didn't take in dues at all during April of 2020. So it's not an apples to apples comparison between the two Aprils. Now, if we just get down to the bottom line in terms of our net income, so we had $131,300 in net income year to date at the end of March. Last year, we had $142,000 of net income. So we're fairly somewhat similar to where we were last year at this time, which is good. Now, in terms of the budget, so we're about approximately $9,400 under budget net income wise. Last year, we were under budget net income wise by about $65,000. And this is just what this really means is that this is a function of how things got budgeted for 2021 versus the budget process in 2020. Like, for example, I'll point out a couple, this is the month to date column, but you'll notice right here, marina income is about $19,000 under budget versus last year, marina income was $57,000 under budget. And that's because literally 80% of the yearly income was budgeted in 2020 to show up in March. Now that was kind of refined a little for 2021, where only about 33% of the net income would come in. That's what starts to cause budget differences. In case you're wondering, meaning in terms of, oh, we have net income of 131,000, we're under budget by approximately 9,400, but then back in 2020 we had net income of 142,000 and we were under budget by 65,000. That might be a little confusing to see it like that, but that's basically just a function of how we were budgeting for these numbers to come in 2021 versus how it was budgeted to come in 2020. So basically, we just refined it a little more for 2021. Month to date net income 17,120 at the end of March. Last year we had approximately close to $69,000 net income. Budget wise, we were about $48,000 under budget at the end of March. Last year we were about 50,500 under budget at the end of March 2020 for the end of March. So both years we were running under budget in terms of net income wise for March. Now, in terms of expense to revenue ratio, of course, I've explained this in prior months, and I also explained this last month too, but basically what I'm looking at is I'm taking total expenses, 810,838, and I'm dividing this by 942,148 of revenue. So basically, we're just figuring out what was our percentage of expenses to revenue. So a lower number is always better, obviously, in this case. So expense to revenue ratio at the end of March 2021 was 86.1%. Last month it was, or at the end of March 2020, it was 84.7%. And then last month in February of 2021, it was 81.7%. So anytime you see the net income increasing or decreasing, then you could also expect that expense to revenue ratio to increase or decrease also as well. Now going to the next page over here, which is page 5 in your packet. So this is a really handy sheet because at times like when Glenn talks about how much money we're forecasted to have at the end of the year for, I mean, the big funds that you really hear the most about, SURF right here, roads, mailboxes, we don't have expenditures coming out of there. UDR, at least not right now. The UDR fund, but basically SURF and roads, those are the big ones where the money is coming in from for the dues. But in terms of all this sheet is showing you is it's just showing you the dues that we've taken in year to date. It's showing in investment income, basically interest expense coming in, expenditures going out. So these are invoices that we're cutting, or I mean checks that we're cutting for invoices for approved capital projects, things like that, or any other types of expenditures that could relate to capital that are coming out of these funds. And then you'll have, so basically this net available cash up here will agree to the balance sheet this is the December 31, 2020 amounts right in here. And then your March ending 2021 amounts right here is basically what you're looking at right here for the numbers. And then this section down here is just merely a projection. So basically we're looking at, we have 9 months left to go. If we took in 95% collections, we'd expect to take in this much more in revenue. SURF loan payments, I mean, the big things. Now the big thing is I might as well just talk about this right now since I think you might have your capital reporting on here, but the SURF right here, you'll see obligated expenses, 402,273. Can you guys see this capital sheet? Are you able to see this, Kim? Okay, good. So you're looking at the SURF page, so there's that 402,273. So basically, this is all the projects that the board has approved, and the board approved amounts, obviously in this green column up at the top, how much has been invoiced. And then basically this is just board approved minus what we take, or the invoices that we've received, and how much we have left to spend out of these approved projects. So there's the 402,273 for SURF. And then for roads, 359,327 left to spend on that. These are all the open projects, all the projects. So now some of these projects will be closed as a part of the 2021 financial statement process. And then here's the UDR. So basically the only two in UDR right now for March is just the Area Z mitigation, the hazardous tree removal amounts still left in here. But that's where you're seeing these numbers show up for SURF roads, for UDR right here as possible as anticipated expenditures. And then after the board recommended carryover balance right here, then you have what's being projected to be at the end of December 31, 2021, this bottom line right here. Now, if I'll flip to the next page here. So the next page in your packet is page 6. We're looking at the income statement again. We're looking at this from a departmental standpoint. So there's that 17,120 in terms of the net income for the month. Then if you went back to the income statement, there's that 17,120 there. But this is showing you on a departmental basis how these expenditures and revenues, how it's stacking up like per department. Up here, of course, Kim asked, she mentioned, there seems to be a big, huge negative number here. Now, of course, these departments up in here, these are basically where you're getting all of your expenditures, the big expense type categories that don't really take in really much revenue. So you'll always expect to see these, like dragging down like the dues payments. Basically, your dues payments and stuff like that are going to pay for these departments, these operating center departments right here. Now, golf, since we talked about golf, I'll hit on this one. So this is for the month, $65,636 of revenue for the month. Last year, at the end of March 2020, they had 41,048. So there's an increase in revenue of about 24,588 in revenue in terms of like the month, just for the month 2021 versus the month 2020. Expenditures for golf, which is a combination of this 42,965 actual salaries, benefits, and then basically all the other expenditures right here. Combination of that, 64,138. Last year they had 51,305. So that's an increase in expenditures of 12,833. Now I took a look at that. Really, the only difference with that is they just purchased more sand and gravel and raw materials. They just happen to purchase more in March of 2021 than they did in March 2020. That just appears to be a timing thing of what month they're buying this stuff. But golf had a net income of 1,498 for the month. Last year at the end of March, they actually had a net loss of 10,257. So they increased for the month by close to $12,000. If I go, this is the most useful page. We're looking at the exact same information, but now we're just looking at the whole year to date. So this is January 1, 2021 through March 31, 2021. This is how all the departments are stacking up. Golf right here. So 281,352 revenue for the year. Last year they had 239,468. Oh, yeah, 281,352 for the end of March 2021. Last year they had 239,468. So that's an increase in revenue, close to $42,000 year over year increase. Expenditure wise, they had, which is just this 105,236 plus this 71,814. They had total expenses of 177,050. Last year they had total expenditures year to date of 153,906. Their expenditures are up about 23,144. And once again, that's just a component of they're buying more stuff like sand and gravel raw materials. They just happen to have purchased more by the end of March than they did last year by the end of March. And that just seems to be a timing issue of when they buy this stuff. So their net income for the year, 104,302. Last year, their net income, 85,562. So their net income increased 18,740 year over year. In terms of like better or worse, when you look at year to date, you'll see like, oh, we have maintenance. They're worse than budget by 46,212. Well, keep in mind that 42,000 of that is weather related, snow removal stuff. So that's basically why they're over budget. It's all weather related. For the most part. Common cost is 31,350 over budget. This is just a function of us paying our property taxes, cutting the checks at the end of March. And this is actually budgeted to be paid in April. That's really all that is. Administration, about $13,400 under budget. And this is just basically, you know, I hit on this last month because the question like this was asked. And basically what it boils down to is like, obviously the billings, like for Glenn's time that we pay for Robert Half. Now, whenever we pay for anyone's, like for any temporary type labor, whether it's Glenn or whether it's anyone else, that is always going to cost you more than if you had someone on staff. Now we have salary savings in terms of the budgeted GM position. Yes, we do have salary savings for that. Now with the billings for Robert Half, you know, that starts to outpace it. And that's really all that's the big thing that's really causing like a budget deficit right there in administration. And I'd say in terms of those are pretty much the big highlights for the financial statements. If anyone had any questions for that.
I don't have a question, but I had an additional comment to make on my wrap up. I need to give Gail, and I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correct, Chiarello, a big thank you for taking the notes at our last finance committee meeting so that I can bring them back to you today. So thank you, Gail.
Do we have any questions for Joel? Linda, I know you're itching.
Oh, all right. Well, I had to switch because I was having issues with my laptop. So I'm on my Kindle now. I just have one question. On page 9, there's a reference to UDR activity for Ken's Cozy Kitchen gym assistants. And I'd asked for and there's nothing there. And I had asked for the general ledger. And I see that in, it looks like 2/17/2021, we paid a check to New Hope Therapeutic Society for $1,188 out of the UDR. And I thought their contract for 2020 was closed, and I don't think the board has made any approval for their salary to be, their money to be taken out of there.
When did you see this, Linda? For what month?
I saw this for
January?
February. It's in February that it happened. I can't ask for March till after this meeting.
And how much was it for again?
$1,188. It was check number 4295 out of the UDR.
That was either one of two things. That was either a late billing that we received from him, or there was another situation where it's either one of these two situations where there was an old stale check that he had not cashed that we voided and reissued to him. But if it's hitting the GL as an expense, then this is probably, it's got to be the case where we had to prod him for an invoice for services, meaning an invoice that was submitted to us late that was paid.
So I'll go look at last year then, if that's what you're telling me. I just thought it was really strange because it really doesn't show up anywhere in money out of the UDR, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just thought it was strange that they were being paid out of there.
Oh, Ken's Cozy Kitchen, that does get paid out of UDR. There was a UDR project code for that.
There was a contract, but it ended in 2020.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, correct. But now that payment that I see exactly what you're saying now. That payment that you saw was related to services in the prior year.
Okay.
During like that contract term. We have not issued him any payments outside of his, a payment that applied outside of that contract term, that we have not done.
Okay, that works for me. It was a strange thing and I was just say what?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. That's all I needed to know.
Okay.
Any further questions for Mr. Joel?
Sonia, I think.
Yeah, I actually don't have a question. I just wanted, because there's so many new owners and a lot of people listen to this that aren't participating right now. But I just wanted to point out that I know you were talking about the additional fee for Glenn's salary and what we pay Robert Half. I just want to remind people that happened because of the mismanagement of the previous board, and that Glenn is paid. It was something that where the board had to make a quick decision to take right action for this community and to bring somebody in that has experience dealing with communities that are in transition like that. That's not an expense. Yeah, it wasn't budgeted because nobody anticipated for the previous board to take the types of or lack of action. So I just want to be real clear that that's not a careless expense. That was something that was well thought out, and it's obviously paying off for the community. And I just wanted people to understand that, you know, it just wasn't when I realized what your point was, Joel, but I just thought it should be clear to people why that decision was made in case they're new and they don't know.
Oh, sure. Yes. Yes, Sonia. And you know, like I told someone, especially, you know, you want to get yourself a good GM, like interim GM. It's not going to be cheap. You get what you pay for, so to speak. So like I joked to someone, it's kind of like you pay a lot of money for a good attorney, and then someone might say, well, that's expensive. Yeah, but he keeps you out of a lawsuit, you know. So you could think about it like that.
Or she, Joel.
No,
They're
excuse-
female attorneys.
Excuse me.
really
Yes,
good.
you're precisely right. He or she, you know, can keep you out of a lawsuit.
On that note, let's move on to, thank you, Joel. Sorry, I should
Oh,
have
sure, yeah.
thanked you. So thank you. Let's move on to our capital requests. You're on mute, sir.
Thank you. I think that's me. Thank you for catching me on mute. Okay, so I have two capital requests in front of you this evening for stormwater. So they are culverts number 182 and number 315. 182 is a small culvert replacement that is pretty basic. We're just taking it out and replacing a worn out one. 315 is doing that same thing, but we need to relocate water and sewer utilities in order to move it because they're all in conflict with each other. So kind of to step back, we have had a ongoing stormwater culvert replacement program for a number of years. We have a long list that we continue to work on. And these are two projects that have come up. These were actually designed and are permitted and were designed in 2020 to be repaired in 2021. There was a couple of others, but to keep the right expenses down, this was the two most needy. We took them through the finance committee last week and got approval. And with that, I did want to kind of reiterate, they are designed, they are permitted through the county. The water district, because of the locates, are now reviewing the utilities. And so should we get approval, they will be constructed this year. Any questions?
Glenn, I
Sonia?
have a question. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't raise my hand. I only can see part of you on the screen. May I have permission to speak?
Yes, you can raise your hand. I can see your hand fine.
Oh, but I can't see. I'm looking on a little screen and it's like all it's got is more on here.
Just raise your hand like you need help and we'll get you covered.
I can't
There you
even
go.
see me.
Permission to
It's bad.
speak.
It's bad. Glenn, on page 18, there's a note in PNW's summary of all this that says, it's about 315. It says, this approach has been approved by WDFW, but is not officially approved by PSE. Evidently, there's a feeder line underneath there that's electrical. And it said, if relocation of the feeder line is required, a substantial additional cost is expected of more than $100,000. And it says PNW has been working with PSE for months to get this finalized and is waiting for final verification. Have we heard anything?
No, I don't think it's gonna, the last I heard, and Tyler and I met yesterday, was that there wasn't gonna be a problem there. But I will tell you, if there was, we'll cancel the project.
That's just huge. I
Yeah.
was reading along and it just kind of made me go, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, but that's why I'm asking. Thank
No,
you.
It's a good question.
Thank you.
Sonia?
Yeah, along those same lines. So this has been on our capital planning calendar for, I think, since 2016. And even when it was permitted last year, so this thing shows up on and off on the GL, the entire project, and it looks like there's some journal entries at the end of the year where they may, Joel, I guess, making adjustments, pulls it back off. So it's kind of difficult to tell exactly how much we spent on design. I know that there was some design charges in 2018, 2019, but when it was permitted last year, it continued to show that the cost was $170,220 less. I mean, and the design work was additional to that. Now we're coming in at almost 140,000 higher after we were already permitted through Fish and Wildlife. So he wrote that capital request as if it was a surprise, and the additional charges were because they weren't aware that they needed to build that type of box. But it was permitted last year for a fish-bearing stream. So I don't understand how did we go up 140,000?
Well, it's the box culvert and it's the water and sewer changes, because we have to move those utilities, and that takes a design, but it also takes a we're going to have to actually put in a couple of pieces of pipe. We're going to have to put in a new manhole for sewer, and those sort of things. And that was triggered by the size of pipe with the box culvert. So that's how all the costs increased. And I don't know anything about the permitting for Fish and Wildlife, but we have to also go through a permitting process through Whatcom County. So both
right,
of those.
but the county permit just says maintenance, but the Fish and Wildlife actually reflects what you're saying.
Right.
It appears to reflect it, so that's why that's why I'm not understanding, because it seems like this should have been a change at that point, right?
I agree. I think what happened, my guess is that what happened when the cost increased, they just didn't follow through with it. So at this point, it's a priority. It's a bad culvert. There are some requirements to replace fish-bearing culverts, so that's why I prioritized it high.
I'm sorry. So can we get a little bit more detailed information from him as far as why that's $140,000 difference between that and this? Is it, I realize you kind of wrote it out, but.
Who's him?
From P&W.
Okay. And then what information do you want?
I just want to verify that that's really our best number. Like, we've got these bids and everything on here, that he's overseeing. But I'm just wondering, like, it just seems like a really big number to me. I realize it's expensive, and like Linda was pointing out, though, we're potentially looking at an additional. So we've got 140,000 that we weren't expecting, plus an additional 100 that's potentially going to come in. It's $250,000, and that's just in these extra fees. That's not including what we were talking about. I mean, like, they're getting up close to $500,000 on this culvert.
I agree with you. Like I said, if the PSC comes in at really high, I either will come back to you because I'm only getting approval for what I am, or I will cancel the project. But this is, in my review of this project and looking at all the details, I don't know what more detail I can give you. The specifics are here. This is what we're estimating a bid will be from a contractor to do this project. So that's what this is. And we know it'll be a little bit under, and excluding the PSE movement, but that I'm not clear what more information I could give you that would help you understand this. So,
well, I guess the other aspect is if we still don't have the number from PSE, is there a reason that we need to go ahead and approve this now?
you don't have to approve anything.
I know, but is there a reason? Like, is there a window? Is that why you're asking us to go ahead and approve this now?
Yes, if we don't get approved now, then this project won't happen, and the only one we would get would be 182, and that's all we'd get done this year. Yes, that's true.
Okay.
Any further questions? Would someone like to make the motion?
I can make a motion. I thought I saw Linda's hand go up, but Linda, you're on mute if you were adding something.
Linda, can you hear us? Let's give Linda a second.
I'll make a motion. How about that? So, because Glenn is saying to us, if I understand this correctly, that this is not going to move forward if there's an additional $100,000 or any additional expenses associated with PSE. It's going to come back to us. So as it stands, this is the estimated amount, and based on his opinion on where we're at, he feels comfortable and confident, right, with these additional changes in the work, and it's a fish-bearing stream, and we have all these requirements associated with that. So I move to fund the pass this motion. I don't know.
There's a motion. There's a motion on the bottom of the.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry, but
I can do it.
Contingent on the motion on that piece of paper, contingent on there's no additional charges. If there's any additional expenses, I think the board, it needs to come back to the board. Sorry, that's a bad motion, but.
Second.
Any further discussion? I actually have one question, but anyone else before me? All right, Glenn, if that costs more, that 100K, how much are we out from the get-go?
Oh, we've spent we'll spend 26,000 on the review and water district piece, and I think there's another. I don't know the exact number of what the design cost was, but we would be out the design costs at this point. But again, that doesn't mean we won't ever do it. So we wouldn't be out those things. We would just be delaying it until we felt comfortable.
Okay. All right, well, we'll call the question here. The motion on the floor is Sonia. Move to approve the stormwater culvert 182 in the amount of $15,125.33 and culvert 315 in the amount of $714,746 for repairs in 2021. And if there are any further cost, see, I can't even do this. If there are any further costs, it's going to come back to the board for further discussion and however we will resolve that. And Deanna, please change my motion to something that's tolerable for the community who checks our minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right. Brian Krulak has the floor next, right?
Yes.
Brian, I'm so sorry you're here so late. We should have just put you to the front. I didn't think about it, and I apologize.
All good. No worries. Thanks for having me. My request is to replace our current roller. The roller is the best way to describe it, it's like a miniature paving roller that you would see. It's obviously smaller than the ones that are used on roads, but we use it about every other day on the greens to smooth the greens out and speed them up. It's one of our most critical pieces of machinery, and it's aged. It's very aging. It was due for replacement last year, but we weren't having issues with it, so we put it off as long as we could. But we are starting to have significant breakdowns with it. The breakdowns, fortunately, at this point, haven't been really expensive in terms of repair costs, but the biggest impact is in our operations. So if that machine breaks down, our timing in the morning gets affected, and we're on a really tight timeline with our morning maintenance practices. So it's a significant problem. And the reality is that big expenses are coming. When we do have major expenses, it'll be transmissions and engines, and in the $4,000 to $5,000 probably those expenses are coming. So it's the right time to replace it for sure. And fortunately, we hosted a demo of the roller for area superintendents a few months ago, and because of that, the supplier offered us the opportunity to buy the demo unit at a discount, a $2,500 discounted price. So. And fortunately, they've held it for us for this long, which was very, very good of them. We're requesting the funds from the CRRF to replace this machine that was scheduled for replacement last year.
Brian?
Mm-hmm. Brian. Hey, how does a big purchase like this affect the golf revenue? Is it pretty much spread over time, or maybe this is a Joel question? I'm not sure. I just wonder.
Well, I mean, if we didn't have this machine, it would affect our ability to produce the conditions on the course that attract players to our golf course. So it would have a significant effect on revenue if we're not able to produce the conditions.
Well, I just mean the purchase. I'm not saying that you don't need I agree with you that you need the machine and everything. I just wonder how it would affect revenue for the golf course. Does it decrease your revenue in terms of expenses with golf operations and such? Or?
Well, I believe being a capital expense, it doesn't affect operations. Yeah.
Oh, so it comes out of the community then, right? So, okay.
Out of the CRRF fund. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Just the funding, that you're talking about, Brian, comes from the SURF fund.
Okay, so that's not included within golf's like net income or anything like that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're right. No.
Okay.
I like that CRRF. That sounds so cool. Sounds a lot better than SURF, right? Are there any further questions for Brian? Would someone like to make the motion?
Of course, though, right?
Say that again.
Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, it's only used for the golf course, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Is that it?
That was my only question. Yeah. Just to
All
follow on Brian's point.
All right, who's got a motion for Brian here?
Motion to approve the new piece of equipment for the golf course.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. The motion on the table is to approve $18,933.25 for the purchase of a True Turf R870 roller from the CRRF fund. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging in there, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you all.
All right, continuing business, hazard tree program.
Hi, guys.
Susie.
So we've made a lot of progress so far, getting down a lot of the hazard trees we were left. We would like to continue. I hope that you guys have seen the progress around Sudden Valley. If you have any questions about what's been going on, I'd love to take them now.
Hey, Susie, it's Linda Bradley. Question for you about the program.
Sure.
There was and it's still open in the UDR for a bunch of trees to be taken down that weren't taken down. All of them, strangely enough, are Earthworks Tree Service trees that were on that list. Has that work been completed? I know it wasn't in the, as of 3/30, it says updated as of 3/31. There was still $8,789 left in there.
That has not been touched yet.
So none of those trees that he gave us a bid for have been done.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. What do you mean?
The UDR request that went out in 2019 had a bunch of trees assigned to it. And some of them were taken down, but there's still some that are in here. They all appear to have been Earthworks Tree Service bids. And I wondered if any of those trees have been removed that were.
I would have to have the specifics on the ones you're talking about. I'm honestly not sure.
Okay.
So Linda, we talked about that a little bit last time. And we're going to, $8,000 will probably be maybe a couple of trees. So we were going to use that list. So some of those will be addressed using that money. So yes, we will use that money and close it out as part of the program.
Okay.
Sonia?
Yeah, I think what the issue is that you're coming back a second time and asking for the same thing, and you're basically saying the same thing, and the package is just a one pager. We don't see what they've completed with the money that you were given the last time. That's undesignated reserve funds. And yeah, they can be used any kind of way, but again, they are reserves and they're there for a reason. And so a second dip in that well, I think deserves more than one page. And so it would be nice if you came with the package that says, this is what we did with the previous money. This is what's outstanding. Not just he did 29 for 62,000 and we got this other number and then we're going to get to the maintenance. It's like, what is really happening? Like, we give you this, then what? What has he done with the money before? What are the trees? What, like, it's just we did it once. Now you're asking a second time. So it just needs to be a little more information. And like even Linda's pointing out, there seems to be some additional outstanding things, so just maybe come back with a more complete package and
Sonia, are you aware of the
Susie, I got it. So Sonia, the first time we did this, we brought a lot of detail of a detailed list of the things that we were doing going on. We explained that there is no way we could get through that list. Now, we could bring you a detailed list of all the things. The finance folks who have reviewed the bills have seen all of those, so they know that we've expended a lot of money. As an example, we had one tree that cost us $14,000.
I'm not saying you didn't.
No.
spend a lot of money, but what was explained in that was that Susie said, well, we're going to be keeping up with all these trees, and you're going to be able to look at it. And you're going to know which trees we did and which are on the list. And the things that was promised the last time, I'm just asking, did they get done? And can we please see that? I don't think that's too much.
I'm not saying it is.
With every single contractor, though? I mean,
no, it was a matter of that there are a lot of trees, and the conversation was, and then we'll get to a maintenance plan. We do these hazard trees, we'll get to a maintenance plan, and I'm well aware of what was discussed, and it was also the conversation of that we've got this plan, and you're going to be able to follow it, and you'll know which trees are coming down, and all of those things, and which ones did come down, et cetera, and what we're dealing with. So it's a lot of verbal, and it's a one-pager.
Okay, Sonia.
That's what I'm asking
we
for.
definitely have all of the accounting and all of the data that you're asking for. It's a non-issue. We're happy to put that together for you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So I look forward to getting that, and then I would feel more comfortable voting for it under those circumstances.
All right, guys, deep breath, everyone. It's late.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Linda. You got it.
So just to be clear, when the first request came from UDR, there was an extensive list of what trees needed to be done, the cost of each of those trees, and that's initially what this UDR request was for. The one that we're looking at tonight, just to be clear, doesn't say where this additional $40,000 is coming from. I didn't see anywhere where this was requested from the UDR, and it would have to come out of the UDR, not out of any other operational expenses. And I don't think this was brought before finance either.
It was not, and I had mentioned in the original presentation that we would come straight to the board. But I can take it right back to finance if that's what you like. The part of that, and the reason I mentioned that the first time was that we want to keep the momentum and that we had gained. And we had talked about that in the first time, but be glad to take it back to finance if that's what the board would like.
Kim?
I'm going to echo that those were two of the same issues I had, was that even though you may have mentioned that it didn't come through finance, also where the 40,000 would come from, and then having greater context of where the money would come from, what's in that account, what's committed from that account, so that we can make sure that we're agreeing to something where there are funds available.
I think we might also have to consider that hazard trees are a liability, and that time is also an issue.
I think that's true. That's what we're trying to balance out as a staff, is going through the processes that we need to, but also balancing the risk to the association. So, but we'd be glad to follow whatever process and give you whatever information you would.
In that vein, though, weren't we told that the most hazardous trees were already taken down first? So whatever we have that we're asking for now is less hazardous than the initial trees that were taken down.
That is true. We went after the worst ones first. But as an example, today we had one that wasn't on the list that broke in a storm, and we had to take it down. So we're doing the best we can with what we've got. We always knew that we wouldn't get through all the hazard lists because we had such a bad backlog that we wouldn't get through it with $60,000, and we knew that. So that's why we're back.
You did mention that, Glenn, when you guys originally did the presentation. I do think it's a great idea to do to have earthworks. And I think what we're reacting and sensitive to is in the past, there were things approved without a great discussion or very many specifics. And we're trying to improve that aspect so that the community really sees where the money's being spent. And it's not to make your life hard, Susie, or anything like that. We think you're doing a great job.
It's already all done. The paperwork is already
Oh, fantastic.
all done.
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
Right.
That's great. That's great. Okay.
Right. That's why I don't know what the issue is. If it's done, just package it so we can see it. That's all. That's all it has. That's it. Just put it in one
No one
package.
has said no to that. So
Any further discussion on this? Sonia, are you looking for more information?
Mm-mm. I'm good.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
Okay. Do we vote on the motion that's on the floor first, right? Or there
is
was
no motion on the
technically not a
floor.
motion? Okay. I'll make a motion that this be brought back to the board with the supporting documentation that supports the request. And also, if you can include I realize it won't be a complete plan, but when you talk about maintenance, because you say, and then we can get to maintenance, what does that exactly mean? So if you could just give us a little bit better idea of, if we do this, then this, what does that mean? It would be really nice.
Can you please clarify that motion?
I would like to make a motion that it come back to the board with the supporting documentation.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? Justin?
I think we need to show staff a little faith here, and also realize that there's some expediency and some liability issues here. And I mean, I don't know the exact procedure, but I would move to approve the motion that's on the table that they have presented.
Well, the motion that's on the table is to bring back further information. So
okay.
Would you like to amend it?
No, we can vote on that motion, and then if it doesn't pass, we can move forward.
Any further discussion? All right, the motion on the table is to have staff bring back more information regarding the hazard tree removal cost, which is coming out of UDR, correct? Joel?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Just so that I'm very clear on what I'm voting on, and I apologize if I missed something here, but are we in postponing this? Is the well dry, and for the next 2 weeks we're not able to address any hazard trees?
yeah, I mean, that's where we're at. So
Your motion says there's still like $10,000 and something still available.
we have to see what that tree this morning will take out of that, but that could easily be a couple thousand right there, as well as, an outstanding invoice or two. So, that's the problem with hazard trees, is they don't really wait.
Do we know how many invoices are outstanding?
There
And how
shouldn't be
much?
many at this point, but I haven't seen anything for this morning because we didn't have any idea it would happen.
So, may I ask you a question, Susie?
Mhm.
If we were to approve this motion that you have in the packet, would you bring back a report for us that's more specific next meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I tell you every penny is accounted for, that's the truth. They've been giving us great prices as well.
Okay.
We could actually probably send it to you
Okay,
tomorrow.
that'd be great. Yeah, I'd be willing to go with that if yeah.
I think that sounds
To amend our motion.
Well, we have to vote first, I believe.
Let me be real. I feel like I need to say something here. I didn't say every penny wasn't accounted for. What I'm saying is that that's not a complete package. You're not even telling us where you want to take the money from. You brought us something incomplete. That's what I'm talking about. I didn't accuse anybody of anything and saying that it wasn't accounted for. I'm saying you didn't tell us where you want to get the money from. You did say in that document that there's still almost 11,000 left. So to me, it would make sense that we have time for you to bring this back to us so that we can see the support and documentation, so that we can feel comfortable with what's happening and it's better explained. That's my opinion.
Actually, I can tell you just from an accounting standpoint that so that hazardous tree removal, that $60,000 budget for that. So to date, meaning anything that's been run through APS of this week. So the total amount is 54,580. So you have about 5,400 left, like to be expended out of that.
Joel?
What if instead of 40,000, we approve like 10, and then that gets us through the next 2 weeks, and we review the rest of the documentation, and then we vote on the rest of it in 2 weeks? Is that possible?
I think anything's possible. Here's
Okay.
my thing. I mean, you guys, I don't know, you might disagree with me, you might think I'm crazy, but we just approved $18,000 for a greens flattener or whatever, the roller, and we're talking about things that can potentially kill people. Well, I mean, a roller could kill people too, but you know what I mean. So this is, sorry guys, yeah. But you know what I'm saying, right? And I mean, it would be great to have the documentation that makes everyone comfortable here. And I know our community is looking for a very transparent process in which we're trying to give. And I think as long as we get the details after this meeting sometime, not tonight, but I think that would be great. But I'd feel uncomfortable approving a roller and then just letting the trees go. And my luck, I'm gonna have a tree on my house tonight. But let's just continue this. Linda was up next, and then Sonia.
First off, we have to vote on Sonia's measure first, because that's what's out there right now. That greens roller, if you looked at all the backup information on that, was well handled and well documented. Look at the $500,000 for the stormwater, that had all the backup. All we're saying is that kind of backup should be in this request. That's all.
We hear you loud and clear, and it will not happen again. We got it.
And I'm running this now, so I'm just gonna say it. But we all gotta be okay with questions on both sides of the spectrum here, without being upset.
Josh, I'm not upset about.
Hey, I didn't say you were upset.
No,
he's talking about me.
Joel, chill. But
over here.
We enjoy questions. We should have the answers to them. And the fact is that the data isn't in there. You want the data? That's fair enough. We'll make sure that it happens. I would rather approve it in a chunk. And if we felt there was an emergency, I would let you guys know and ask for an emergency expense if we had to take a tree down. And I think you guys would be okay with that. But to me, I'd rather get you the data you need, and we need to continue to get better at this, and we're working hard at it, and we are. But we missed this one. It's okay. It's okay. We'll come back in 2 weeks.
Justin?
My take on this is staff spends 40 plus hours a week on this stuff. And as Glenn said, maybe this is a mistake that they can learn from, and in the future they can do better. But let's we spend 3, 4, 5 hours a week as a board, possibly maybe a little more. I think I want to defer to them and that they know better, and also I look at it through a liability lens as well, as you looked at too, Josh.
Well, on top of that, and not to, negate what you just said, we're all here for a reason, and I would consider this some kind of a collaboration. And I think, everyone's voice is important here on the board. I don't think our community would want a board that just sits there and says yes or no. So I think this input's good. But let's go ahead and call the question to this motion that's on the floor, which is to have staff bring back more information, and I'm putting this loosely, in regards to this hazardous tree request. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is dead.
What's
All
the
right.
vote, Josh?
What's that?
You don't have a secretary on board. What was the vote?
1 in favor, 3 against.
Okay.
4 against. You voted against, right, Justin?
Yes.
Sorry, the way this grid is laid out is a little bit weird.
Yeah. So 3 were for it and 4 were against. Okay, so it failed. Thanks.
1 for.
All right, so do we have a new motion or any further discussion?
Okay, then let me make the motion so we get it right here and from a account and everything else. Move to approve the proposal for increasing funding in the amount of $40,000 for the Hazard Tree Fund service as presented, funded from the UDR reserve.
Second.
No,
Discussion.
is this gonna, there's discussion. Is this gonna add the fact that you're gonna actually bring back the documentation that Glenn said you're bringing back the next time? Or are we just voting for it and we're back to square one?
No, we'll
confirming. Yeah,
They said they'd bring it back.
I know. Add
Okay,
it to
here.
the motion is what I'm asking.
Yeah, Linda, could you please add that to your motion, that the documentation for
All right,
these
I can do
trees.
it. I
All
can
right.
do it.
Make
Move
it
to,
sweet.
I move to approve the proposal for increased funding in the amount of $40,000 for the Hazard Tree Fund service as presented, funded from the UDR reserve, and that further information will be brought back to clarify the amount requested.
That's beautiful. I second that. Any further discussion? Well, any discussion on this topic? All right. The motion was just stated. All in favor? Look at that. Motion passes unanimously. That means everyone, Linda.
Thank you.
All right, next on the list. Item 12, credit card policy. Who has taken us through that?
That would be me.
Go for it.
So we, this has been a policy and procedure that's happened before. One of the things that, so we have followed this when we were looking at, we started this process and we had some fits and starts because of, we got some misinformation to the finance committee, so we got it back to them. And what we've done here is, this is in regard to our credit cards that we use to operate. And as I've mentioned to you many times before, we're working hard to get off the credit cards as much as possible and get on accounts as much as we can. But for operational reasons, we still need to have credit cards. So this includes an allowance for each position and person who's currently assigned to that position to have a certain credit card amount to limit on their credit card. We have it's mostly managers. The two exceptions to managers are ACC coordinator and the IT coordinator, and that is because they make a lot of purchases that ACC coordinator does a lot of tree permits, and we need those moved quickly. And then for IT, there's a number of things that need to happen quickly to make sure our IT system stays up and secure. You can see the amounts. These amounts have changed a little bit from historical, and you will also see there's no person assigned to the operations manager position currently. But as soon as we have that, you're approving whoever gets the position in this case. A couple of other changes to highlight. Of course, we put the board members, the officers there, and we did add a change that allows Joel, the accounting manager, to be able to cancel and put on hold any credit cards when we're reassigning them or a person leaves. And that was brought about because we weren't able to move quickly in some of the transitions, and we want to make sure we protect our financial stability there. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
So this is, go ahead, Linda.
No, go ahead, ask your question, because this isn't, go ahead first.
So Glenn, this is just a policy change, right?
Yeah, it's actually it's a policy update that based on the past you've done regularly. You usually do it on an annual basis. I'm doing it for an 18 or 19 month deal so we can get through 2022. But this is something that the staff should bring up every year to update this to you. Usually just at the beginning of a new year, so that you can approve the credit limits of employees, and while you're watching credit cards, so you'll be able to, as we were speaking before, transparency to make sure you can hold staff accountable for their spending on credit cards.
And Glenn, I'm not sure if you added that the finance committee also approved this policy.
I did not. Thank you, Kim.
Linda, did you have a question?
I do. You've kind of lumped this all together. I don't have any complaints about the credit card borrowing resolution. However, I have an issue with the association corporate credit card policy because it says any regular full-time employee may apply for a corporate card. That means, anybody that works for us must obtain prior written approval from their supervisor and use it. And I don't think that's proper.
And that's not consistent with current practice.
I understand that. I know it's been in there. I bitched about it. I complained about this.
Hey, we have little ears.
I'm sorry. I complained about this when this was originally done. I just, to try and keep track of employees and stuff, if we have supervisors with these kind of credit limits, we shouldn't have to have regular and full-time employees going to town and having a credit card and then having accounting have to keep track of them. That's my complaint. That's all I got, but I don't think that belongs in there.
Sonia?
Well, I just wanted to, this might help a little bit, Linda, but the whole financial policies have been referred to document review. So that will be part of that review, is to look at all of that. Just so you know. So you can make a notation and send it to document review of your concerns, so that when we're doing the review of the financial policies, then it could get adjusted potentially at that point if the board decided to do that.
Okay, like I say, it's over the top. That's all.
Would you like to change that now, Linda?
No, if you read how do I say it? If you read the motion, it says that only applies to the listed employees, but there's that section of the policy that refers to all of our regular full-time employees.
Okay.
And that's what's troubling to me. That's all.
I have a question. This is just process, right? So, and as the recommended motion from staff, it says application process for the listed employees by position, and then we have the employees listed on the next page. How does that work with the minutes? And does it just reference those names in the agenda, or will those names go on to the minutes, or how does that work?
Yeah, that section, that table with the card holders thing will be transposed into the minutes.
Okay, just curious. Are there any further questions for Glenn on this? I'm going to let Kim make the motion since finance did approve this.
Okay, well, I move that the board approves the credit card policy as stated in the agenda packet. And I think that's all I need to say, right?
That sounded wonderful.
Wonderful.
Second, any further discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Did you get that, Linda? Everyone.
Thank you. Hey, I write it down on my little sheet of paper. Every now and then when I look at minutes, I come back and,
We know you look at those minutes all the time.
hey, I do. And they have gotten much better, let me tell you.
Well, thank you for keeping track of our minutes this evening. Moving on to our last round of property owner comments and board response.
Yep, still have a few people here with us tonight. 7 attendees. If anybody would like to chime in, now's the time. Just use raise hand in Zoom. I'll bring you over.
Past everyone's bedtime.
It is getting a little late. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Doesn't seem like we have any takers, John.
Woo-hoo.
You guys know what that means, right?
A motion, I move at 10:19 to adjourn.
Second.
Not everyone at once. All those in favor?
Was that unanimous, Josh?
It was unanimous.
Thank you for running a good meeting, Josh.
Oh, thanks, Glenn.
Good job.
You killed it. You killed it, Josh.
All right, don't let my ego get too high up there. No, well, thank you all for joining us, and thanks Glenn and Rachel and John and Susie and Brent.
Thanks, you guys.
And the whole team. Sorry, got a little heated there for a little bit. You don't want to get heated over hazardous trees. You know what happens there.
It was a good conversation, though.
It was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was very good.
A lot of good changes happening, and yeah. So thank you all. Have a great evening.
Good night, everybody.